Hey everyone, John from Nintendo Life here, and today we're reviewing Persona 5 Strikers for Nintendo Switch. This review was originally written by the wonderful PJ O'Reilly and was adapted to video by me. Anyway, it's great to finally have Persona on the Switch. It's been a long time coming. Let's jump in.
We're sorry, we just have zero trust in the police.
I told you to stop smiling when you say that.
Persona 5 Strikers, otherwise known as Persona 5 Scramble the Phantom Strikers in Japan, finally blasts its way into the West. If you were expecting this Atlus and Koei Tecmo crossover to be a straight-up Musou-style spin-off, you're in for a surprise. This isn't just Dynasty Warriors with a fancy Persona skin. What you're getting is a slick and exciting action RPG that manages to maintain Persona's signature conversations, characters, and camaraderie, all that while successfully making it a Musou. It's even more strategic and varied than we expected. Persona 5 Strikers is a direct sequel to vanilla Persona 5. Not Royal, that's a different canon, so characters such as Kasumi don't appear in this one. This opens with Joker and Morgana on a return trip to Tokyo, where they aim to catch up with the rest of the Phantom Thieves on a summer camping trip. Of course, just as they go about laying out their vacation plans, our heroes are dragged into yet another life or death situation in the metaverse. This time involving a popular new phone app, Emma. Emma is somehow being used by a bunch of high-profile public figures in order to still the desires of the hapless citizens, imprisoning them in enemy-infested jails. That's this game's version of Persona 5 Palaces. Fans of the Persona series will likely feel a lot more at home here than they expected. After the game's action-packed opening, the gang immediately gets together at good old Café LeBlanc, where they mull over their options, formulate their plans, and indulge in a rather long-winded back and forth for which the series is well known. There really is far more in the way of character development and story squeezed in here than we imagined there would be. The entire cast gets plenty of opportunities to shine in this well-written campaign. It makes this spin-off feel not too far removed from a proper, fully-fledged Persona 5 sequel. But of course, with the developer Omega Force involved, once our heroes hit the metaverse, Persona 5 Strikers reveals a combat style that feels radically different to the methodical turn-based action of its predecessors. There's certainly plenty of Musou-style carnage on display in how you deal with the larger groups of cannon fodder enemies, but it's all given a nice little strategic lift in how it chooses to incorporate the series' sneaky thief tactics and personas into the fray. While delving into the game's dungeons, your 4 chosen party members will engage in combat by coming into contact with foes in a number of ways. If you're spotted by an enemy, they engage first with your group. But if you carefully approach an enemy from behind, you gain the opportunity to perform an ambush. This drops all foes to the ground and gives you an advantage. Once you're actually in combat, you'll employ the expected quick combos of light attacks and heavy attacks as well as the dodge maneuver. By holding down the L button, you get your gun, and just like in the main Persona 5, certain enemies are weak to this. Then there's personas, which are of course a big part of battles. Holding down the R button freezes time and opens up a menu highlighting your selected character's currently active persona. You're limited by your SP, but this opens up so many tactical options. It gives you the ability to impair mobs, heal teammates, and cause all manner of elemental pain to the shadows. As expected, Joker is the only character in the game that can cycle between multiple personas at a time. That combined with your other party members' personas gives you a lot of options. The persona powers really come into their own when you face off against one of the stronger named enemies, mini-bosses, or the final boss encounter in a jail. Just whacking them over and over will take a long time, but if you make clever use of spells in your party, then the combat is so much more fun and gives you plenty of options. It's all suitably slick, flashy, and fast-paced stuff that's further enhanced by the Phantom Thieves' ability to zip around the screen. You can go to marked points such as lampposts or the top of cars. You can then perform a special ability like spinning down or making the car explode. Carnage. But of course, Persona attacks can't be used endlessly because they're tied to SP, and as a result, some early boss encounters, even on normal difficulty, can prove quite frustrating. It only takes a few spells to deplete that meter. This isn't an issue for long though. A few jails in, you'll learn how to cook and make items that restore SP and health. This negates the need to save up yen to buy them in the shop, so you can just rely on these most of the time. We found that later in the game that our team was capable of cutting through most big battles without nearly as many problems. Just like in the main game, you can go to the Velvet Room and combine to make brand new personas. This really is an extension of Persona 5, though some things have been streamlined. You can level up Persona by using Persona points, but unfortunately this does raise the spectre of grinding. And that is something we had to do in this game to raise both PP and yen in order to buy fancy new weapons, protective gear, elemental rings, and of course, powerful and expensive late game Persona types. We found ourselves grinding quite early in Persona 5 Strikers. It's a shame the game's various currencies weren't balanced in such a way that this retreading of old ground could have been avoided entirely. Further to the monotony of grinding here and there, we also felt the game's campaign could have come to a close a little earlier than it did. There's perhaps a few too many jails, and with each one taking a good few hours to get through, the last couple did make the pacing feel a bit like a drag. The game's camera also isn't great during combat. When the screen's full of enemies, it can be really tricky to maneuver. You can lock onto a main target, but still, when things really heat up, it can be a bit of a mess to find your bearings amidst all the special effects and elemental explosions going off. However, compared to what the game gets right, these problems feel pretty small. It's a tricky thing to pull off, satisfying both fans of the RPG series in addition to those who want an action game, and for the most part, Persona 5 Strikers succeeds. There's a properly meaty story at the heart of proceedings here, full of entertaining skewball bosses to face off against, lots of well-written conversations, and even great new characters, most notably the kick-ass AI Sophie. We love Sophie here.
Phantom Thieves.
The action too, although it can be repetitive and we found ourselves annoyed at the camera here and there, is slick and highly polished. Pulling off explosive special moves, zipping around the battlefield to launch into spins from perch points, and blasting bosses with the combined power of your personas really does feel great here. There's a nice balance here between cutting through the huge swarms of mindless enemies in that almost therapeutic Muso style and employing the new clever tactics. And all this is bolstered by unlockable master skills, team bonding buffs, and every character having their own unique moveset. And all this action and chaos performs spectacularly well on the Switch. This is a very good looking game, and besides a pretty obvious lack of anti-aliasing, it's one that never stuttered or bugged out once during the 50-hour runtime. In both docked and handheld modes, when the camera was behaving itself, the action is clear and easy to read. Cutscenes look excellent, and the menus feel straight from Persona 5. Persona 5 Strikers isn't without its problems. You'll find yourself grinding here and there for yen and PP, the ability to make your own items can trivialize some later boss battles, the camera can be a pain at times during ferocious battles, and the campaign puts you through a few too many dungeons towards the end of the game. But overall, this is a highly ambitious and successful entry in this franchise. It has a strong story, some slick and flashy action, a handful of great new characters, and of course the returning ones. Persona 5 Strikers is an easy recommendation for fans of the franchise, and honestly, action RPGs in general. But can we please have Persona 5 on the Switch now? Like, this is the sequel. We here at Nintendo Life give Persona 5 Strikers an 8 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching, and for a lot more Switch reviews, go to that subscribe button and find a whole horde of them, and just whack them over and over again. And check out nintendolife.com for a bunch of written reviews too. We'll see you next time. Bye everyone.
Still found his mark! Right on the money, Flo!
You can thank me later.
Oh,